Hey guys, welcome back to Hard Mode Games, and today I'm going to be going over one of my favorite 1.5 decks, and while it may not be tier 0, it did pretty well for me and got me 4th place in a 45-man tournament. However, this deck is just going to be a little bit different from that same tournament deck. I actually made some changes to it, and I think it's for the better. This deck is mostly revolving around Ceresmon and Rusttyrannomon. It originally started as a Rusttyrannomon deck, but as I started to play it more and more, I saw that Rusttyrannomon was definitely more of a support card than a main feature card. And so I like to call this deck the Beat Down, Stay Down deck for a very good reason, actually. The main idea behind it is just to build up to Ceresmon, because there's more of them in the deck than there are Rusttyrannomons, and use Digizorption to Digizorb your opponent's Digimon and swing over them, basically keeping their board size down while you can go ahead and build your Rusttyrannomon up and get that tamer on the board to really be oppressive and just be able to destroy unsuspended Digimon. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this deck. I really enjoy playing this deck, and every time I've played someone with it, whether it be in a tournament or just for fun, they actually end up being very surprised on what Rusttyrannomon can do and how oppressive he can be once he's on the board and you can get him to stick onto the board. So let's get into the deck. Alright, so to start off, we've got the main star of this deck. Actually, even though he is the main star in my eyes, he is not technically the highest count of level 6s there are, but it did originally start that way. This was originally a Rusttyrannomon deck, and I was running 3 of them, but since, like I mentioned before, I've changed the deck, and now it runs only 2 Rusttyrannomons. I do think that 2 Rusttyrannomons is the kind of the way to go, because he is definitely a support Digimon, and you don't really want to focus around him with his high cost and his requirements to really get him going off. So for this deck, like I said, we've got 2 Rusttyrannomons, Rusttyrannomon being a Digimon whose effect can be really powerful. Your turn, when you have a green tamer in play, this Digimon can attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon, as well as when it destroys one of your opponent's Digimon, you can suspend a different Digimon. So you do need a green tamer for that first effect. So it's really costly to get that effect going. Not only do you have to pay the 4 cost for Digivolution, but you also have to have a green tamer on board, and this deck is running 3 Mimis. And I know some people say, you shouldn't run 3 Mimis because you won't be able to effectively use them, but it's not really about using every Mimi, it's about finding the Mimi, and you really need to get the Mimi to make sure you can keep the pressure on your opponent. So those are 2 Rusttyrannomons that are going into the deck. Then we have next 3 Ceresmons. This is the other star of the show here. Ceresmon, of course, we've seen him in a lot of other decks. He's very oppressive. He does have a 12 cost to play. We don't really care about that. 5 cost for Digivolution. Generally, we will not be paying that 5 cost. We will be paying 2 due to Digizorption, and his effect that lets you Digizorb your opponent's Digimon to get some of your Digizorption Digimon out onto the board. And that's really crucial to just be able to reduce your opponent's board size. And like I said before, it's all about getting to Ceresmon first and then kind of just dwindling your opponent's side to the board until you can build up enough memory and a stack large enough to get Rusttyrannomon available to kind of just do Ceresmon's job for it. You will no longer need Digimon to be able to, you won't need Digizorption Digimon to be able to attack your opponent's Digimon. Rusttyrannomon will just be able to do that on his own. So 3 of those are really important. Those are the things that we really want to be pushing forward. These are our win cons, but let's go ahead and get into the rest of the deck, as there's quite a few interesting things. We've got 1, 2, 3 Argomon level 2s. 3 is definitely a very weird number for a lot of people. I know a lot of people like to go 4 and 1 or just 4 and just not have the last Tama, but for this one, the Argomons are pretty important, as that extra memory on the restand once we get our Mimis on board will give you 4 memory if you have a Blossomon, or even if you have a a level 4 out, a champion, you can Digizorp for Blossomon, and this Argomon will provide the extra memory with Mimi to give you 4 memory and Digivolve into Rust Tyrannomon without passing over turn. So that can be really big. So we really need those Argomon and Tanamon. So the interesting thing about Rust Tyrannomon is that he needs DP. Him being at 11,000 DP makes him very, very weak to 12,000 DP Digimon. If you're fighting against black, then you're going to have to go over possibly even 12, maybe even 13,000 DP. Same goes with Millenniumon. The Omnimons are a bit of trouble for this deck, but we do have solutions to those. Yeah, it's just Tanamon is really good for the Digivolution, getting that extra 1,000 DP, and there's a little bit more spice that some people might not know about, and we'll see that a little bit further into the deck. So we got 2 Tanamons for that DP. We need that for the Rust Tyrannomon. Sometimes even the Sarismon can use it too, just to make sure you don't crash. So next up we've got 4 Goblymons, right? So these are just your generic 2 cost to drop, very cheap to get them out onto the board. You need as many bodies as you can. Mimi's going to help. So we are running quite a few rookies in this deck, or level 3s. We've got 1 Auroramon. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Agumons. These are pretty much staple. You need that plus 1,000 DP. Again, going back to that plus 1,000 DP needing for Rust Tyrannomon, you really need to get to 12k, maybe even 13k, honestly, is where you want to be for that Rust Tyrannomon. So 4 Agumons go into the deck. Next we have 1 Terriermon. This is just a little bit of spice to help with going against blue, any memory gainers. So he's just kind of nice there. Then we've got more 2-drops. We've got 4 Argomons, same thing as the Goblymons, nothing really too special there. Then we've got 1 Kokuomon. This is just to get extra security checks in case you need to finish up the game a little bit faster. Then we've got 3 Gargomon. Again, more 1,000 DP boosters. The reason why I have Gargomon and Kabuterimons, as we can see here, is because Gargomon is a 5-drop, so if you brick, green is one of the worst colors to get bricked on, because a lot of your 1-cost Digivolutions, while they're cheap for Digivolving, if you don't get a level 3 or a rookie in your hand turn 1, you're going to be paying a lot in memory to get something onto the board. So 5 drops makes the hurt a little less, but yeah, so we got 3 of those, and then we've also got 2 Kabuterimons to be able to essentially make sure we get that 1,000 DP. It's super, super important that Rust Tyrannomon gets those DP boosts, and so we really want that Kabuterimon, Gargomon going down the entire line and not even saying the right one. But then we've got Argomon, level 4s. We're only carrying 2 of these. This is just for Sarismon support. We want to make sure that if we go into Sarismon and we have a level 3 on board, you know, sometimes you're at 3 memory, you can drop a level 3 like a Goblymon or an Argomon, and that'll put you at 2 memory, but you won't have to, you know, maybe use a Kabuterimon or a 2-drop like a Woodmon to pass over turn. Woodmon would pass over turn, Kabuterimon wouldn't. But the same thing goes if you're at, you know, you don't have the Mimi yet and you're at 2 memory. This will let you Digizorp another Digimon and really give you kind of the advantage by, you know, destroying it with your Sarismon. Then we've got 4 Woodmon. This is just a little bit of a stall game. Mostly the biggest reason I put this in here was because of Rookie Rush. You just need blockers. And green has one of the worst matchups against Rookie Rush. It really has like no cards to actually really help against it. Rosemon can help a little bit, but Rosemon is just not that great against other decks. So Rosemon isn't still even a guaranteed win, to be honest. So then we have 1 Lilymon. This has come in clutch so many times, and there have been so many times that I've wanted to remove it, and it came in handy. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just done work every time I see it. Then we've got plus the 2-cost. I mean, you know, 2-cost evolution is really cheap. Helps you get to Rust Tyrannomon pretty easily. Then you have your Lilymon effect, of course, that you get to rest opposing Digimon when attacking that are not blockers. Then we've got 2 Rapidmons. Again, 1000 DP for every rested Digimon or suspended Digimon. This helps with Rust Tyrannomon a lot. In some cases, I've seen these effects, the Rapidmon, the Kabuterimon, and the Gargomon, you know, push Rust Tyrannomon to even kill Ragnalord. So, I mean, it's come in handy. It's very useful. I absolutely suggest having DP boosters. I don't know how much I can reiterate that, but it's really important. We've got one Metal Tyrannomon. This has come in handy a lot too. It's crazy how often this comes up, but I don't want to run more of it just because the ultimate spot, the level 5 spot, has been already kind of cluttered up with the most important cards, which are your Digizorpers that we're going to get to in a second. But Metal Tyrannomon allowing you to restand during when destroying a level 6 is very, very useful, and there's a couple reasons why when we get into it. Rust Tyrannomon, right? You can kill multiple things by having this Metal Tyrannomon underneath, even if they're not suspended. So it can be pretty great there, but there's a little bit more once we get to the level 6s, and I'm sure some of you guys probably know what it might be. So more for the level 4 or level 5s. We've got Blossomons. We max these out because we need the Sarismons also, but there's a neat trick with when you're starting on the low levels. You've got Argomons, and so 7000 DP beats a lot of decks. Specifically blue, purple generally can't go over 7000. So what you end up doing is you may Digivolve for 1 or 2, and then if you're at 1 memory, right? If you have 1 memory left, so you Digivolve for 1, your opponent gives you 2, you Digivolve for 1, then you Digizorp itself. This is for the early game. And then you drop a 2-drop, right? You choke them at 1. If they're at a rookie, they cannot go over Blossomon at all. And that's going to guarantee you that Argomon memory, which can then get you to Rust Tyrannomon. So really important. I absolutely like using that trick a lot. 7000 DP is such a sweet spot. So I love it. Next, we've got Argomon, right? So Argomon, and honestly, this Argomon can be swapped out for Cherrymon as well to get to that 7000 DP spot. This is just another Digizorper. Helps you, shortcut your way to level 6. We run one of it, and we drop bodies when we need to. If you're keeping your opponent down, like mentioned before, with Sarismon and Rust Tyrannomon, then Argomon can be really good for starting to overwhelm your opponents. Then we've got Bancho Stingmon. So this is where I'm talking about the Metal Tyrannomon comes in handy here. So I've had a Metal Tyrannomon under Bancho Stingmon several times, and you wipe their entire security if you can pull this off. It's happened so many times. I don't know how many times it's happened, but you kill a 12k plus, you get 3 security checks plus, what is it, 6,000 extra DP, 7,000 extra DP, putting you at 16,000 DP. Yeah, you're not going to die to a Digimon in security with that. So you swing once at the big thing, it has Pierce, so you get a security check plus 2, so you check for 3, and then it will restand for killing that level 6 or higher, and then you swing again, right? And that's 6 checks. More than likely than not, they will only have 5, maybe even less. If they're at 3, even better, you can kill with Bancho Stingmon there, and it's so much fun. I love it when it happens. People hate it when it happens to them. So yeah, Grand Kuwagamon is a spice pick. He's actually come up a lot against yellow, surprisingly. Shine Greymon, people don't expect the Pierce. You have a lot of bodies on board. If you have the extra memory, you're at 4, right, because of the Argomon. Going into Grand Kuwagamon is pretty funny when a Shine Greymon is suspended, and then you just swing with the rest of your bodies. So he's just fun. He's good. He's come in handy quite often, to be honest, and he goes over, you can get him over Omnimon and Alteress and Ragnalord, although you're more than likely not going to be able to swing over Ragnalord. It really depends. It's a lot of setup to be able to do that. But yeah, he can go over the Omnimons, which is great if you have the Agumon or any of the other DP boosters in there, and that's really why they're in there, is not only to boost Grand Kuwagamon, but the Rust Tyrannomon is really the most important thing there. But yeah, like mentioned before, we have 3 Mimis. You're probably not going to be using all of them. At most, you're probably going to be using 2. By the time you get to the 3rd Mimi, you're not going to really even need it. It's just to be able to find it quicker. You need these Mimis to get your Rust Tyrannomon on board and
just attack unsuspended Digimon and keep your opponent's Digimon down. Don't let them get anything higher. You beat them up with the Ceresmon, and then you make them stay down with the Rust Tyrannomon, which is why it's the beat down, stay down deck. But yeah, Mimi's important. They let you push out more Digimon, get your Rust Tyrannomon online. 1 Dimension Scissors. This card is severely underutilized, to be honest. I've been seeing it more and more pop up, which is fantastic since I've been playing this deck. I started playing this deck like probably a month or 2 ago. So it's been quite a while. But yeah, Dimension Scissors will let you restand every time you destroy a Digimon, your opponent's Digimon. I don't know how many board wipes I have done with Rust Tyrannomon with Dimension Scissors. They don't expect it. They go really wide. They have blockers. And then I play Dimension Scissors and I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to wipe your whole board. So Dimension Scissors is great. Its security effect is that it goes into your hand. If you have Mimi on board, you can guarantee pretty much using it. So yeah, having one of these is great. I don't think you need two. You can probably see it being dead in hand, so I'm really cautious about it. Shoot, okay, so I actually forgot to mention the spice about Tanamon from before. So a lot of people, what they don't know is that Tanamon is a when attacking effect. Okay, so people actually do know that it's a when attacking effect, but for some reason, people, I've run into this problem a lot, where when I attack with Rust Tyrannomon and say I have Metal Tyrannomon or Dimension Scissors being the most common one, when I play it with Rust Tyrannomon, when he restands and attacks again, he does get the Tanamon effect one more time, or he gets the Tanamon effect every time he attacks. It's not a once per turn effect. So I've had instances where I have maybe I guess let's say Millenniumon, for example, on the board, right? 13,000 DP, and my Rust Tyrannomon has no sources except for the Tanamon, and I Digivolved into this Rust Tyrannomon, or I Digivolved into, say, Vegemon or something this turn. I had 4 memory to start. I can play the Dimension Scissors after, so I get the boost from Tanamon. Because when I attack, that is when he gets the 1000 DP boost. So he will restand, attack the next thing, and get another 1000 DP boost. That puts him at 13,000. So if your board, or if your opponent has a very wide board, then Tanamon will help you go over maybe that one really large thing that might be on the board. If it's red, you can boost yourself to over 15,000 by killing everything first, other than the Omnimon, and then going for that Omnimon last, or the Millenniumon that I was using in the example. So that's some really interesting spice, some tech that people don't really know about, but that's mostly because people don't really play Dimension Scissors or Metal Tyrannomon. So you know, it's so fun when you get to pull that off and you get to say, you know, like my Rust Tyrannomon is now higher than your Omnimon or your Millenniumon or something else that's really large if you're playing black, right? They have a bunch of DP boosts as well. That's a really interesting tech. I thought you guys should know. But yeah, when you restand, you will get the extra 1000 DP when you swing the next time with Tanamon, if you've Digivolved that turn. We've got 1 Flower Cannon. This is just to possibly rest a Ragnalord if you need it, or a security check can come in clutch. Honestly, every time I've seen it in security, it's been the last security check, so it doesn't do anything. It's been really unfortunate, but it happens. 2 cost is not too expensive, so you're more than likely going to always be able to do this. You have some high DP Digimon for the most part, between the levels of 3 and 5, with 7,000 DP being Blossomon. You've got boosters to boost your Kabuterimons and your Gargomons, even though Gargomon only goes up to 5,000, and even Woodmons. I don't know how many times I've swung with Woodmons. I know people hate doing that, but if you have an opportunity to take advantage and, you know, make, like, basically wipe your opponent's board or something, or get the last thing off of it, do it. That's what I say. I'd rather have no Digimon on board than something and have a blocker on board. If you can keep your blocker, yeah, just definitely go for it. I don't know how many times I've Flower Cannon and then swung with a blocker because it would make their board state like gone pretty much. So yeah, we've got 1 hidden potential. You kind of just always have to run this card. This card is like really important, crucial. You can shortcut to Rust Tyrannomon. That's the big one there. Sometimes if you don't have anything to Digizorp, or sorry, not Digizorp. If you don't want to pay the 2 cost for the Digizorp, then you can do the Hidden Potential, save yourself just a small amount of memory. I've done that quite a few times. The 2 memory can really make a difference. So if you find an opportune time to use it, just do it. Then for the last 2 cards, we've got 2 Terrorist Clusters. This is just some removal. You really need to get bodies off the board sometimes before they get too scary or they've done too much damage. So the Terror Clusters is just there as like a safety measure kind of thing. Sometimes I've played it in hand. It's come in security more times than I can remember. It could just be my luck, but I've seen it a lot. And so that comes in handy a lot as well. So that is the Rust Tyrannomon deck. Some of the worst matchups that you get with this deck is Rookie Rush. Rookie Rush has a really hard time, or you have a really hard time against Rookie Rush. Just because green doesn't really have any good options to really handle it. You have Cherry Blast, but that's a 4-cost option card, and you might not even have enough bodies to get rid of everything Rookie Rush can throw at you. But that's why there's 4 blockers in there. You kind of just need those absolutely. And then yellow is a toss-up. I've played a lot of games with this deck, and the thing is that against yellow, it's usually comes out to a 60-40 chance, which is not the greatest matchup. But it's definitely better than going against Rookie Rush for sure. You can definitely win against Yellow Shine. I've won more than I've lost, I believe. So it's not the worst thing, but it will be hard and difficult. If the opposing Shine player does get a good start, then you're going to be in a really rough time. As far as yellow-red control goes, this deck, the times that I've played it, I've won against it. So, you know, I might have just gotten lucky. That deck does rely heavily on security. But the way this deck plays, the reason I feel like I won against it was because I built up to Rust Tyrannomon. Every time a body was dropped on board, I would just kill it. And they would give me enough memory to build up to another level 6. So this is the Stay Down, Beat Down deck that revolves around Rust Tyrannomon, Sarismon. Let me know what you guys think about it. You know, I play Digimon on online through TTS. Sometimes I do webcam battles. I also host webcam events. So you can be sure to check that out. On my Twitch channel, you can find me catching Digimon. You can find me playing other video games, as well as, you know, sometimes I do some other fun stuff. But yeah, those links will be in the description below to the Twitch channel as well as the Discord, where you can find all the decks from the Big Bite tournaments that I host. There are over 200 decks there, so be sure to check that out. And I hope you guys enjoyed this deck list. This deck list is one of my favorites to play. Again, not a tier 0 deck, but very fun. If you like to have fun, you like to tinker, I do think there's room for improvement on this deck. But like I said, I've gotten about 4th place with this in a 45-man tournament. So I think it's pretty decent. And I've won quite a few games. People are always excited to see it. Seeing the Dimension Scissors pop off or Metal Tyrannomon, people get really excited. So I'll see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed again. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't for more content. I'll be posting more of the decks that I like to tinker with in the future. So